Today, Kathy's excited to introduce her friend, Katie Lange, who she's known for 14 years. Her inspiring story began the same way many young people start out, lacking confidence in her given field. Throughout the challenges she's faced through the years, she's had a major mindset reset and really grown in her self-confidence. Join them for a discussion on how to think differently about your strengths as you keep learning.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to another amazing episode of Thinking Differently with Kathy Rhodes. I'm Kathy, and I'm so excited to share with you my friend Katie Lange. That's who I'm interviewing today. So if you've watched other episodes, whenever I interview anybody, I get all excited because it's fabulous. And this one is exactly the same. I can't even categorize or define our conversation today. But I've known Katie for 14 years. We started working together 14 years ago. And like I kind of mentioned, I don't know, maybe I do mention it in the podcast. Maybe I just mentioned it to her, but I feel like I've known her forever and we just had this immediate connection. We connected, we have always stayed connected, and I know her story, and it's a powerful story. I allude to it at the end. The first introduction chapter of my new book that's coming out, hopefully by the end of the year, it's about Katie, because I know her heart and I know where she's grown through the years. She's sharing some of that today. So get ready, because she shares things that are going to affect your mindset, your confidence. She talks about value and worth and your own truth. I know I work with a lot of young people who say these words all the time to me. You're no different, my friends, than anyone else. Katie has been able to define it a little bit and be confident to share her story. So enjoy this conversation, this powerful conversation that I have had with Katie. Enjoy learning and growing from her. And I would love to hear from you on what is your takeaway, because I think there's going to be a lot of them. There's going to be many takeaways and tidbits that we're going to glean from. So I want to hear from you. Thanks for joining us today. I can't wait to hear soon what your takeaway is. All right, Katie, I am so excited to have you on my podcast because you are the epitome of thinking differently. Friends, we just calculated we've known each other for 14 years.
Long time.
I know, but it feels like I've just always known you. I feel like we connected the first day I started at the organization where you had already worked. And yeah, it's so wonderful to have those types of people in our life. So enough about us, right? I want you to share with my friends and our listeners, how have you thought differently through your journey of life? What is your story?
Okay, my story. I started working young, like most people did years ago, and maybe not so much today, but 16 and you go out and get a job. I stayed in my hometown. I've never left my hometown, and I went to college. I actually thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. So I applied at a couple different colleges and landed at Clark for physical therapy. And I think I lasted one semester and I was like, yeah, that's not for me. I've always had a love for math and like business stuff. So I switched to accounting. Totally 180, 360, whatever, I totally went a different direction. But I think between my sophomore and junior year, I sent out a bunch of resumes just trying to get like a job in the area. And I ended up getting a job at a firm and worked full time, basically. Like my senior year, I was working full time there and going to school full time. So I did a lot. But, got married, started having kids, and, your priorities change a little bit when that happens. I worked in accounting for 17 and a half years, like at one place, and sometimes you think you'd start and you'll never leave. And an opportunity came up that I ended up switching and pivoting into a different role.
Hold on, let's back up a minute
Yeah,
because the people who raised us, that is exactly what they did. They worked at a company for 35, 45 years.
yeah,
So we're kind of subliminally taught.
that's what we're supposed to do.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. So it makes total sense, first of all, that you were there over 17 years, but also to just think that why would I go? This is what we do, right?
yeah, you don't ever change. I mean, you are taught from a young age that having multiple jobs on your resume is a bad thing.
Right.
You
Ooh.
know, and now sometimes that is a positive thing because you're actually trying new things and, even maybe switching industries completely. You're not just stagnant at staying where you're at. You're actually, growing in a different way by changing jobs in some respects. I think, when I was young, and like early in my career, I was not super confident in myself, like in my abilities, even though, sometimes you're told, hey, you can do anything. But I had one instance where I was told I couldn't do something. And I think that stuck with me for a really long time. Some people, when they're told you can't, they are going to be like, hey, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to do it anyway. For me, it went the opposite way. And I think it was because of my lack of confidence in myself that I took it the opposite way. And I'm like, well, I can't. So why should I try? And I'm not good enough. Like that whole, I'm not good enough to be that. So, um, you know,
I love that you just shared that because we hear those success stories of the people that kind of push forward and get it done. You're a success story, but like you said, it had an opposite effect. And I love that you shared that because I just yesterday talked to a financial friend who said, the young people coming in, it's like they lack confidence. Is this a new thing? And I even asked her, I'm like, what about us? What about us when we were that age? Did we lack confidence? I love that you remember. You can remember that this isn't really a new thing. This is a young thing. This is a thing in young professionals that we have to figure out.
yeah. And I think you have to, as a leader, you have to make sure that the younger people, like that you help build their confidence up and not just say you can't or you can, but like really work with them to make sure that they understand their worth
Mm.
and their value. And for me, I've always been that jack of all trades, master of none. Like my whole career has been that way. And I think at sometimes that was taken as a negative. Like I was always looking for something better, like the grass is always greener kind of thing. But I'm realizing as I've gotten older that I don't think that's what it is. I think it's that I always want to learn and I get stagnant.
Mm.
Like I'm
Mhm.
ready for something new. Like give it to me instead of I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't want to learn anything else. Like that has never been my personality. I want to know more. I want to learn more. And I think it was seen as a negative, but in reality, it was a very positive thing.
When did you figure that out?
Not until like the past couple years.
So after you left that organization, after you left that culture, that mindset, wow, sometimes we need to quit to grow.
Yes,
Mm.
100%.
Interesting. Keep going, keep
And
going.
and when I left, I went and ended up working as like a CFO controller, and at a credit union, so like financial industry. And I, having worked in accounting for so long, and then switching to be, basically internally an internal accountant versus an external accountant, was a totally different mindset. And I think I dove into the industry like head first. I wanted to know everything about the industry, attending conferences or webinars or whatever I needed to do. So I made sure that I understood what was happening. Part of that role was also taking on technology and like being in charge of technology, which has always been something that I've enjoyed in the background, but never really was at the forefront of my career. I mean, I did things like putting in switches, which I never thought I would do. And understanding like IP addresses and like all the things technology wise is what I had learned. Um, Part of that role also owned our core system that we used. I was the main contact for our core system. And I've always in the back of my mind, accounting and technology kind of seem to go together quite a bit for whatever reason. And I think it's because accounting is so process oriented, and then you have technology that helps make those processes more efficient. And I have the ability to look at a software and say, hey, if we did X, Y, and Z, that could save so much more time if we just change this one little thing. Um, Through the course of owning the position of the core software at the credit union, I got some of that love of technology back that I didn't realize I was missing.
Wow.
Um, so I actually reached out to the core software and asked if there was any opportunities to come work for the software instead of working at the credit union, because I felt like being a user of the software is very valuable to the software company to be able to provide feedback of different things that they could do for credit unions to help um, make things easier. And plus, I think working for a company that supports an industry that you worked at is pretty powerful. Like when you can go speak to another credit union and say, well, I've sat in your shoes, I've done what you're doing, and this is how I can help. That's a pretty powerful thing. Um, During my time at the credit union, though, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and started my journey, I think, it was 2008, 2000, late 2017, and then I had a mastectomy in 2018. Um, that's probably where I really saw my biggest shift in my mindset, like personally. And I remember being with a doctor, and that was actually the oncologist, and him telling me, you need to do whatever you can do to bring your stress level down. And it doesn't really matter what that is. Like if it's yoga, if it's massage, if it's meditation, it didn't matter what that is, but just make sure that you're taking care of yourself and helping yourself mentally. Um, and I kind of went, a lot of people turned towards prayer, and I did not. It wasn't something that um, I felt was best for me at the time. And so I went much more spiritual and did Reiki. I learned how to do Reiki. I have 2 Reiki certifications. I don't do it. I mean, I don't even use it, but it was just something like going back to the jack of all trades thing. Like I wanted to learn it so that I could understand it better. But in that whole journey, I felt like I understood my worth more than I ever did. Like I understood my value in ways that I have never done personally. Like, that voice inside your head that says you're not good enough, like you can't do it. Not that I don't have that today, but it's much less.
Mhm.
And I think when you start to realize your own value and your own worth and truth, that it changes the way that you carry yourself. It changes what you're willing to accept and not accept. Um, and I think, the whole don't sweat the small stuff, that's where I started that too. Like I don't feel like I get worked up. When you have young kids and all you do is yell at them because they're doing things wrong, and you look back now today and think, why did that matter? It didn't.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think I've taken that more of that mindset on now today, that some things just aren't worth getting upset about, and they're not going to change, and focus on what really matters instead of all those little things that are going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it makes me think of my kids. I was very young also when my 3 kids were born. I was 20 when my eldest was born. And he has said, I wish you today would have been my parents when I was growing up. Me too. Me too. I mean, I'm not saying I wish I would be in my 50s having young kids, but I wish I would have known all this when I had my first child too. But that's
Yeah.
just called life, right?
Yeah, and I think some of it's just maturity, and age, that you just, things just in your mind change. But I think part of me transitioning from working at a credit union to working for the tech company, um, part of that mindset shift is what allowed me to do that and put myself out there in a way that I never would have done before. Like I would never have asked a company if I can come work for them. Like I never would have thought of doing that. So um, it's kind of cool that that's the way it ended up turning out to be, and allows me to then work from home and travel and do some different things that I've never done before. If you would have asked me when I was 21 if I would ever be like in sales, I would have said absolutely not. But
Accounting and sales, that's an interesting mix.
uh-huh. But sales is just about a relationship. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's just about building that relationship. And to me, if the relationship is solid, you're not really selling. You're just, offering solutions.
That is your superpower. And I've always said it since the day I met you, your relationship connection. I mean, clients sought you out to stay with you if you changed departments or if you changed, positions. That is the magic potion of life, and you get it.
Mhm.
Doesn't always connect with other business goals and strategies, but I think you found a business who values that, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you've been there a year?
No, I started in August and I did sales. And now, June 1st, I'm transitioning to a completely new role already within the company to oversee our actual product. So I'm in charge of our core software and helping decide the future of the core, and making sure that what our customers need is what we're doing, and having that voice, because I have the experience of our customers, that I can help drive that change forward. So completely something I've never done before,
Right.
being, understanding the whole product development process as it comes from the idea all the way to the engineering, the program, and the release. Like I've never even thought about that stuff. So it is completely new.
And it's giving you that fix of constantly changing, learning, keeping things in front of you at a different pace. So,
Yep, for sure.
wow. Okay, so you mentioned earlier just your thoughts, right? And how your mindset has shifted, your thoughts have shifted. I mean, the name of the podcast is called Thinking Differently. And that's my passion. I firmly believe we have to challenge ourselves to think differently if we want to be successful. So can you define any of those categories of thoughts or those transitions in your thoughts that have happened over the years? How do you define your mindset and the shifts that you've journeyed through?
That's a good question. I think defining it is tough because it's such a change. I think a lot of it just comes down to growth, and like maturity, like I said, just making sure that we're understanding like who we are today. And I think being able to take all the voices that are outside of you and what you're hearing outside and try to block them so that you're only focusing on yourself and where you're at today and where you really want to be. I know people would always ask me, what is it that you want to do? And I never could answer that question. Um, I think today I can answer that much more clearly. Um, but I think I just had so many other voices in my head that I could not focus on what I really wanted. And I think it took having something major happen in your life to really reset your mind and set that focus as to what you really wanted to do. Um, and understand that it's okay to say no to things um, that are being asked of you, to say that's outside of my limit and I'm not willing to do that because of X, Y, and Z. Um, it's really difficult for me as a person to put guardrails around myself and my time. I've always been that person to say yes to everything. Going back to that continuous learning, that's just been my personality. But I think the older I've gotten, the more I'm apt to say that's outside of my realm, and no, that needs to go over here and say that no. So I think as women, we try to take on everything that we can and do everything.
Yeah.
And we're not good at delegating. We're not good at allowing other people to do things for you. So really trying to change that to be like, okay, no, that's I don't need to do that. I don't need to be part of that and move on. I didn't really define. It's really hard to define. There's just so many things.
I get what you're saying. I absolutely get it and understand it, but there is this transition.
Hmm.
We really understand things like nobody cares about you as much as you do. Or if you say yes to everything, you're actually saying no to everything
Right.
because you can't give your best, and now you're not meeting deadlines, and you're not giving the best quality, and so you just understand it because life happens, and you just have more of a made up mind, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so Katie, what do you want to do in life?
I think I'm doing it. Like I think it's interesting being seen
Oh,
uh, at a company that maybe you've been seen but not truly seen, like for who you are and what your value brings. And I feel like I am at that right now. I know I kind of, and I think I may have shared this with you, Kathy, but I have started writing a little bit more myself, and I've determined that I'm in my career era thanks to T Swift, because
love that.
because I think I'm finally in that position where I feel happy in what I'm doing. And it's taken a really long time to get there. Not that I didn't like what I've done in the past, um, but I think I'm finally at a point where I'm like, okay, I could see myself like doing what I'm doing for a long time
I
and
think
making a difference.
I think something you said is so key, that you're being seen.
Mhm.
Every person wants to be seen. Every person wants to be told that you're valuable, that you have worth, that we need you, and this is your strength, so we're going to put you here in this position. Every person. But it takes us a long time to find the right company, to find the right career choice, to find the right people that agree to the value that you offer. And we
Yeah,
all work better when we're working in our strength zone, right?
yeah, for sure.
So,
And I think like for me, I've had so many people like come in and out of my life that maybe were a mentor or a guide for a really short period of time. And I know that they came into my life for a certain reason. And, all of those people have helped guide me to where I am today, good and bad, because not every person that comes into your life is a good thing sometimes.
right. I love that you're saying that, because sometimes the experiences kind of were negative for us, or we're kind of grumpy about those people. We're kind of grumpy about the situation. We needed them. We needed
Yes.
that situation.
Yep.
Or you would not have pushed forward to figure yourself out, right?
Right.
That's some
Yeah.
powerful stuff. When I coach young people, especially because they're young, right? They're just young with this world in front of them. When I coach them specifically, you can't push it. You can't. And I remember working with you, asking you the question, Katie, what do you want to do? You couldn't answer it. I couldn't guide you to anything. I couldn't even ask you the right question to guide you to it. It's a matter of keep going, keep living, keep on this
Keep
journey,
learning.
keep learning. Yes.
I mean, I think you have to be willing to put yourself out there at times in your career, like just to go for it, because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what could be possible if you don't put yourself out there.
Mhm. So now you're in a leadership position,
Correct.
and you're doing the work, and you got client people and you got team member people. Where are your thoughts here? Where are you seeing the need to think differently as you grow as a leader? You know how to be a leader. You've been a leader for your whole life, but now it's a little different because of the positional title and all the dynamics going on around you. Where are you seeing your thoughts shift?
They're
Again,
all over the place right now, to be honest. um, I It's challenging. I mean, for sure, to be able to focus and figure out like where things need to be. I think especially coming into a new role as a leader, like there's so many things to learn for one thing, to make sure that you understand the process and what people are doing and how they're working today. And then, think about what could be done differently, because that's always my brain goes to is how can we make this better? How can we improve this process? And it's never enough time to do it super quick. It always takes a long time. And that, like, my thoughts are always like, okay, I have this huge notebook of all of these notes of things I need to do. And then you're like, I don't even know what to do first because there's so many things and so many thoughts going on in my head. Um, but really trying to focus on like what is most important, and, checking off as you go, like those most important things that need to be done so that you can move forward. I think being in a leadership role that is much more like KPI driven and has statistics behind it of what needs to be done and when, is holding people much more accountable to what needs to be done. And I think that's going to be important for me going forward, is just making sure that, I am not only being held accountable for what I need to do and what my team needs to do, but also making sure my team is being held accountable for what, they are doing too. Um, so it definitely is a different mindset for that.
I was just talking to a leader and I said, leadership it's all great and it looks so glamorous when you hear somebody tell the end of their story and how success came about. But you don't quite understand the messy middle
It's
until
very messy.
yeah, you're in your messy middle right now. But I love what you said. You said some key things. Prioritizing really is what you're doing. You're prioritizing the goals, you're prioritizing your work. People are important, relationships are important. You know that, but you also still need a productive team. So now you're in that balance zone, you're in that messy middle. So just, I'm asking a favor here. Try to journal this, try to
Mhm.
document and label kind of what are you doing, because somebody else is watching and wanting to know your tricks.
Yeah. And I think too, like, there's so many people I think in their career that are afraid to say I need help, or like I have questions, and they're so afraid to reach out for fear of something happening because they didn't know. Like, I've spent my whole career asking questions. Like, I would figure out who would be the person that could give me that answer, and I would ask. I think even in this position I am today, I'm looking at, are there training opportunities that I could do outside of work to be able to level up my skills for what I need to do? Who at the organization can help me? Can I ask questions of? Is there someone that I could reach out to on LinkedIn or somewhere that, is in a similar role that I could maybe ask questions of and would be willing to mentor me, or, things like that. Like, do not ever be afraid of asking those questions or seeking out that help, because the only way you're going to learn is if you do that. The only way you're going to further yourself is if you keep asking those questions.
Thank you for giving us that permission, because there's another barrier and mindset that some reason we think we have to put on this mask and this front, that we can figure it out. We're confident. Come on, we're in a new world now, right? We came through a pandemic. We're in a new world.
Yeah.
Let's seek all of the possible learning opportunities we can. Oh,
Relationship. And it's relation. I mean, you're building relationships.
yes. Yeah, you never know where that relationship is going to come back again, come back together for a new phase of life.
Yep, for sure.
Well, I know everybody's going to love this conversation, and I know many people that are going to listen are going to pick out different pieces that just spoke directly to them and wherever they are. So I thank you so much for sharing your story. How can people stay connected with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. If they search me out on LinkedIn for Katie Lange, they'll find me.
Perfect. We'll put your link out in the show notes. But also, some of you might know I'm writing a book, and spoiler alert, Katie's story is, boom, the introduction of my entire book, and with a little more detail than what you shared today. So they can always hear more and read more at a later point of your journey. And who
Thanks
knows,
for having me.
maybe that story will change before it's published. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Katie, thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
I continue learning from you. So thank you for sharing.
No problem.